Night's darkness seemed her future's ominous face.
Well, when the grief of all the world and the sorrow has come to her, and the panting of the wind and the showers, the darkness, night does seem to her this ominous, this evil, foreboding evil face of the
Mhm.
future.
The shadow of her lover's doom arose, and fear laid hands upon her mortal heart.
Now, for the first time, we see fear coming in.
Hmm.
She's not realized yet that she is the Divine Mother. That will come later. So now she's seeing the shadow of her lover's doom rising, and fear is suddenly laying hands on her mortal heart. Very human, isn't it? Okay.
The moment's swift and ruthless race alarmed her thoughts. Her mind remembered Narad's date.
There's an interesting thing here that I found in the glossary and index of proper names in Sri Aurobindo's works. I don't remember who put that together, but it's a good book. He goes, a well-known rishi and Vaishnava bhakta who moves about in the various worlds, playing on a lute, and this is the key, and having a special role in bringing about events according to the divine will. Interesting. And Sri Aurobindo has only one comment on it, although he's spoken to his disciples a few times. But in Letters on Yoga, he writes, Narada stands for the expression of the divine love and knowledge. So, in a conversation or letter to another person, he says, I don't know much about Narad. And he writes two cantos. But Mother has seen him traveling from the highest spheres down to earth.
Hmm.
Incredible. Okay, let's carry on.
A trembling moved accountant of her riches, she reckoned the insufficient days between. A dire expectancy knocked at her breast. Dreadful to her were the footsteps of the hours. Grief came, a passionate stranger, to her gate, vanished when in his arms. Out of her sleep it rose at morn to look into her face.
Oh, yeah, you could read that a little better at the end.
Mm.
Um, but for now, fine. Um, so she is reckoning these insufficient days because she's been with him for a while, and therefore she knows that fairly soon he's going to leave his body. A dire is urgent, desperate. Expectancy knocked at her breast. Look at the words, Shwera. Dire expectancy knocked, dreadful to her were the footsteps of the hours. And then this interesting line, because Savitri has never known grief before. Her life has been such a beautiful experience in the palace, in the first meeting with Satyavan, and going back to the palace and meeting Narad and her father and mother. There was never any grief in her. Now it's come for the first time. Because she's human. She's human Savitri. She's not divine Savitri yet. We'll find out about that later. So grief is a passionate stranger to her gate. It's banished, of course, when she's in his arms. But when she awakens from sleep, he's gone to work. It rose at morn to look into her face.
Vainly she fled into the abysms of bliss from
No,
her
no,
pursuing.
yeah, no, the abysms, just into abysms.
Vainly she fled into abysms of bliss from her pursuing foresight of the end.
Well, so it's very clear that she's intensely loving Satyavan. As much as she can be with him, as much as she can hold him, kiss him, make love to him, whatever, that's what she's going to do. So she's fleeing into these abysms of bliss. Abysms here, I would say depths of bliss, not holes, abyss at all, the usual sense. From her pursuing foresight of the end, she's already been told that by Narad when she goes back to her family.
The
The more,
more she plunged into love, that anguish grew. Her deepest grief from sweetest gulfs arose.
isn't that a magnificent line? Oh, the more she plunged into love, that anguish, that excruciating distress or suffering grew, and therefore her deepest grief came from the sweetest gulfs.
It's so true of the human experience.
So true.
Remembrance was a poignant pang. She felt each day a golden leaf torn cruelly out from her too slender book of love and joy.
Did I hear poignant?
Yes, was that wrong?
Yeah, that's the G is not pronounced.
It's poignant,
Poignant, poignant, poignant.
poignant.
There you
Okay,
go.
can I reread that? I'll just read it again.
Sure, sure.
Remembrance was a poignant pang. She felt each day a golden leaf torn cruelly out from her too slender book of love and joy.
Well, so when she remembers him and the sweetest gulfs with him, the love, and then distressing, painful to the feelings. Each day she felt this. Each day she felt this golden leaf torn cruelly out from her too slender book of love and joy. Obviously, if you're with someone for 8 or 9 months, it's a pretty slender book of joy.
Thus, swaying in strong gusts of happiness, and swimming in foreboding somber waves, and feeding sorrow and terror with her heart. For now they sat among her bosom's guests, or in her inner chamber paced apart. Her eyes stared blind into the future's night.
I think what we have to do here is we have to go back to remembering that she's probably in her teens, at the most early 20s, a young girl. And as a young girl, she is swaying in these strong gusts of happiness. And she's at the same time swimming in the somber waves of foreboding. So you have the two things going on. And that's what it is with people who are about to leave someone. Let's say a wife and a husband. One of them's going. And there's a line there, or one, where it says that one, the other one should go, not that one.
Mm.
So she's feeding sorrow and terror with her heart, with not exactly her inner being, but with her heart. Because now they're sitting amongst her bosom's guests. Or, he says, he has an or here, or in her inner chamber. Now that's the psychic being, paced apart. But she's not so aware of it yet. Her eyes stared blind into the future's night. She can't even see anymore. She's just looking into this darkness of his departure.
Out of her separate self she looked and saw, moving amid the unconscious faces loved, in mind a stranger, though in heart so near. The ignorant, smiling world go happily by upon its way towards an unknown doom, and wondered at the careless lives of men.
Important passage, huh? So, first of all, we see that she does have a separate self. She has an inner being and an outer being. Of course, right now, the outer being is the most sorrowful. Out of her separate self, she looked and saw. Now, that's a parenthetical phrase, moving amid the unconscious faces loved. So she's moving only with three people, his mother and his father. There's nobody else there. In mind, the stranger, though in heart so near. What? The ignorant world, the ignorant smiling world that's just going happily by. So what? Upon its way towards an unknown doom. And this is very critical, Sanjana, because we seem to be close to it now. I mean, I know that you're on this Q thing every day and I see your posts, but I heard and I read today that the 60 people that ISIS somewhat killed and the 145 wounded in Russia were actually guided by, at least this is what they're saying, guided by the, who's Russia fighting?
Ukraine.
Guided by Ukraine people to make the escape, to make the escape.
The escape. Oh, okay. Too.
F,
I haven't
F.
actually followed that much.
You have?
I haven't, not yet. I hadn't gotten to this.
So
Yeah.
we don't know yet. This could be conjecture. This could be rumor. It could be false narrative. But if it's true, Russian generals are saying wipe out Ukraine. And this is what these people want. They want continual war.
Yeah, I think Putin knows that, and it's very strong of him to not react. It's very hard to not react, but it's like he's got this immense power.
But he's going to have to do something. But to whom is the question?
Mm.
I mean, U.S. is bombing ISIS now. They're bombing Iran, helping the Israelis. So a lot's going on, and we have to be aware of this ignorant world that is smiling and going happily by upon its way towards an unknown doom. And therefore she worries, she wonders at the careless lives of men. So it's so immediate. Okay.
As if in different worlds they walked, though close, they confident of the returning sun, they wrapped in little hourly hopes and tasks. She, in her dreadful knowledge, was alone.
Yeah, there was something there that let me go back to that last page.
Page 470.
470. No, we were at 469, yeah. Um, as if in different worlds they walked, though close. See the
Hmm.
difference? As if in different worlds they walked, though close. So you have to get that pronunciation better. And then we'll go to 470. They, confident of the returning sun. See, he's shifting the beat.
Hmm.
Not they confident.
Oh,
They,
they
I mean,
confident.
yeah, that's the way we
Got
have
it.
to say it.
Yes.
And they wrapped in little, because they wrapped would make no sense. They wrapped in little hourlies.
Yeah.
No, they confident that could possibly work, but we see in the next line that it's not possible. It's they wrapped. It almost wants a comma there on both of
Mhm.
them. But Sri Aurobindo didn't like punctuation too much. Okay. So they is what is they? This is they, the humanity.
People.
Humanity, yeah, they're confident that the sun's going to return. And they are wrapped, obviously, in their little hourly hopes and tasks. But Savitri, because she has that dreadful knowledge, was alone. We can go a bit more.
The rich and happy secrecy that once enshrined her as if in a silver bower?
Bower.
Bower.
A bower is
Apart.
covered where the roses and all the flowers would be. A bower. You enter a garden bower and you go
Okay.
into the garden. Okay. Here is a
Enshrined
silver.
her. Yeah, as if in a silver bower, apart in a bright nest of thoughts and dreams, made room for tragic hours of solitude and lonely grief that none could share or know. A body seeing the end too soon of joy and the fragile happiness of its mortal love.
Very, very beautifully put. Oh. So she once, when she was first with Satyavan, had this rich and happy secrecy. And that enshrined her as if in this bower of the silver bower. And she is apart in a bright nest of thoughts and dreams. But now we see that made room for tragic hours of solitude. So he's gone to work in the woods. He's cutting wood for the family, for the fire, for cooking, and he's gone. So that's the lonely grief because these tragic hours of solitude are when she's not with him. And as well, this lonely grief that nobody else could share or know because she doesn't tell the parents. She doesn't let him know anything. We'll find out later that a body, of course, her body, seeing the end too soon of joy and the fragile happiness of its mortal love. Oh, how fantastic. Now you have to begin to read the whole thing.
Night's darkness seamed her future's ominous face. The shadow of her lover's doom arose, and fear laid hands upon her mortal heart. The moments swift and ruthless raced, alarmed her thoughts. Her mind remembered Narad's state.
Yeah, I would change that a
A
little bit.
trembling
The moment swift and ruthless raced, alarmed her thoughts, her mind. See, her thoughts and her mind are
okay.
alarmed.
The moments swift and ruthless raced, alarmed. Her thoughts, her mind remembered Narad's state. A trembling moved, accountant of her riches. She reckoned the insufficient days between. A dire expectancy knocked at her breast. Dreadful to her were the footsteps of the hours. Is it ours or ours?
Hours.
Hours. Dreadful to her were the footsteps of the hours. Grief came, a passionate stranger to her gate, vanished when in his arms, out of her sleep, it rose at morn to look into her face. Vainly she fled into abysms of bliss from her pursuing foresight of the end. The more she plunged into love, that anguish grew. Her deepest grief from sweetest gulfs arose. Remembrance was a poignant pang. She felt each day a golden leaf torn cruelly out from her too slender book of love and joy. Thus swaying in strong gusts of happiness and swimming in foreboding's somber waves, and feeding sorrow and terror with her heart. For now they sat among her bosom's guests, or in her inner chamber paced apart. Her eyes stared blind into it. Out of her separate self she looked and saw, moving amid the unconscious faces loved, in a mind stranger, though in heart so near. The ignorant, smiling world go happily by upon its way towards an unknown doom, and wondered at the careless lives of men, as if in different worlds they walked, though close, they confident of the returning sun, they wrapped in little hourly hopes and tasks. She, in her dreadful knowledge, was alone. The rich and happy secrecy that once enshrined her as if in a silver bower, apart in a bright nest of thoughts and dreams, made room for tragic hours of solitude and lonely grief that none could share or know. A body seeing the end too soon of joy and the fragile happiness of its mortal love.
Good, but not great. I'd
Yeah,
like, I'd
I
like
know.
you, I'd like you to go over it again, and we'll
Okay,
reread it next week,
okay, we will.
or when you come to see me Saturday.
Okay,
Good.
yes, let's
Namaste.
do that. All right, namaste. Thank you.